The morning sun was just beginning to warm up the sidewalk when Rachel Chen pushed through the automatic doors of Riverside Elementary School. She was early, which was exactly how she liked it. As the CEO of a tech company that employed over 200 people, Rachel had learned that being early meant being in control. But elementary schools were different from boardrooms, and she could feel the slight nervousness creeping up her spine. She'd agreed to speak at Career Day 3 weeks ago, and now here she was rolling down the hallway in her wheelchair, looking for room 204. The smell of cafeteria breakfast and floor cleaner reminded her of her own school days. Back before the accident that had changed everything, Rachel was adjusting her laptop bag when she heard a crash around the corner, followed by a frustrated groan. She turned the corner and nearly collided with a tall man who was desperately trying to balance a tower of cupcakes, a large poster board, and a backpack that kept sliding off his shoulder. The whole situation looked like it was about 2 seconds away from complete disaster. "Oh no, oh no, oh no," the man muttered, trying to shift his weight to stop the cupcake tray from sliding. That's when physics took over and the tray began its inevitable journey toward the floor. Rachel's reflexes kicked in instantly. Years of navigating the world from a wheelchair had made her quick and precise. She shot forward and caught the edge of the tray with both hands, steadying it just before 24 carefully frosted cupcakes would have met their doom on the linoleum floor. "Whoa, thank you," the man gasped, his eyes wide with relief. He carefully set the poster board against the wall and took the tray from Rachel, finally getting a good look at his rescuer. "You just saved my daughter's entire birthday. I'm Tom, and apparently I'm terrible at carrying things." Rachel found herself smiling. There was something refreshing about his response. Most people's eyes went straight to the wheelchair, and she could practically see the questions forming in their minds, the awkward sympathy, or worse, the pity. But Tom's face just showed genuine gratitude and a bit of embarrassment about his juggling failure. "I'm Rachel," she said, extending her hand. "Professional cupcake saver. It's not on my business card, but maybe it should be." Tom laughed as he shook her hand. His grip was warm and firm, not the overly gentle handshake some people gave her as if she might break. "What brings you to our chaos this morning? Please tell me you're not here to see Principal Morrison about something terrible your kid did." "Career Day," Rachel explained. "I'm speaking to the 4th graders about technology and business." Tom's face lit up. "No way, you're speaking to my daughter Lily's class." "She's been talking about it all week. We've got a future programmer on our hands, I think. She's already building these elaborate games on her tablet that I can barely understand." As they walked down the hallway together, Rachel noticed something else that was different about Tom. He didn't slow down awkwardly or hover like he wanted to help, but wasn't sure if he should offer. He just walked beside her at a normal pace, chatting about his daughter's obsession with creating her own apps and how she'd spent the last month learning basic coding from YouTube videos. "She's 8 years old and she's already better at technology than I am," Tom said with a mix of pride and mock horror. "Last week she hacked into my phone and changed all my contacts to emoji names. I had to call my boss and his name came up as a dancing banana. Very professional." Rachel laughed, really laughed, for the first time in weeks. The sound echoed down the empty hallway. "That's actually pretty genius. Maybe I should recruit her." "Don't tempt me," Tom said. "The way things are going, she'll probably be running her own company before she graduates high school." They reached the classroom and Tom held the door open naturally, not making a big production of it. Inside, a teacher was arranging chairs, and a few early arriving students were chatting in corners. Tom headed to a table at the back to set up for the birthday celebration during lunch, and Rachel rolled toward the front to prepare her presentation. As she was connecting her laptop to the projector, she could hear Tom talking quietly with his daughter. "There's the birthday girl. Did you remember to bring the napkins like I asked?" "Yes, Dad," a young voice responded with the particular tone of exasperation that only children can perfect. "I put them in the backpack like you told me, like 3 times. Just checking, sweetie. You know how I get." Rachel glanced back and saw a girl with dark hair and 2 braids wearing a t-shirt with a robot on it, giving her father a hug before joining her friends. The love between them was obvious and unself-conscious. The classroom began filling up with students, their energy and noise level rising with each new arrival. Rachel had given dozens of presentations to investors, at conferences, to rooms full of adults who thought they knew everything. But looking at these kids with their curious faces and complete honesty, she felt more nervous than she had in years. The teacher, Mrs. Patterson, called the class to order and introduced Rachel. 24 pairs of eyes turned toward her, and Rachel could see it happening. The kids who'd been chattering fell silent, not in respect for a guest speaker, but because they'd noticed the wheelchair. She could see the questions forming, the curiosity. Rachel had learned a long time ago that the best way to handle this was to address it head-on. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rachel Chen, and yes, I use a wheelchair. I was in a car accident when I was 23 years old, and that's been my reality ever since. But that's not why I'm here today. I'm here to talk to you about building things, creating technology, and starting a business. Any questions before we start? A hand shot up immediately. It was Lily, Tom's daughter, sitting in the front row. What kind of technology does your company make? Rachel felt her shoulders relax. The right question. Not about the wheelchair, not about what happened to her, but about her work. She smiled. We make apps and software that help people with disabilities navigate the world more easily. For example, we created an app that shows wheelchair users which restaurants and stores have accessible entrances, bathrooms, and parking. We make maps that show where the curb cuts are in different neighborhoods. We build technology that gives people freedom. Another hand went up. How did you learn to code? I taught myself, Rachel said. Just like some of you are probably teaching yourselves right now. I started with free tutorials online, made a lot of mistakes, and kept trying. That's really the secret. It's not about being the smartest person in the room. It's about being willing to fail and try again. For the next 45 minutes, Rachel showed the students her company's apps, explained how they worked, and talked about the process of turning an idea into a real product. She showed them photos of her office, introduced them to the concept of user testing, and explained how feedback from real people made their products better. The students were engaged, asking thoughtful questions. Lily wanted to know about programming languages. A boy named Christopher asked about how much it cost to start a company. A quiet girl in the back asked if you needed to go to college to be successful. Rachel answered honestly. She talked about the challenges, the late nights, the times she wanted to give up. She talked about the importance of solving real problems for real people. And she talked about how her own experience using a wheelchair had given her insights that others might miss. From the back of the room, she could see Tom watching. He'd stayed after setting up the birthday stuff, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed. But he wasn't looking at her with that expression she'd seen so many times before. That mix of inspiration and pity that made her feel like a motivational poster instead of a person. He was listening to her ideas, nodding when she made good points, smiling when she joked with the kids. When the presentation ended, the students applauded, and several rushed forward to ask more questions. Lily was at the front of the pack, her eyes shining with excitement. Ms. Chen, that was so cool! Did you really build your first app in your bedroom? I did, Rachel confirmed. On a laptop that was so old it took 5 minutes just to turn on. That's what I want to do, Lily said firmly. I want to make apps that help people. Tom appeared beside his daughter, that same genuine smile on his face. I think Ms. Chen might have just created a monster, he said. She's not going to stop talking about this for weeks. Good, Rachel said. The world needs more people who want to build things. As the students were dismissed for recess, Tom helped Mrs. Patterson set up for the birthday celebration. Rachel began packing up her things, feeling unexpectedly good about the morning. The kids had been great, the presentation had gone well, and for once she'd felt like people saw her skills first and her wheelchair second. Hey, Tom said, approaching her. I just wanted to say thank you. That was really impressive. Not just the presentation, but how you talked to the kids. Lily's going to be coding all weekend now, which means I'm going to be pretending I understand what she's doing. Rachel laughed. She's a smart kid. You should be proud. I am, Tom said. Every single day. He hesitated for a moment, then added, This might be weird, but do you live around here? I swear I've seen you at the grocery store on Pine Street. I do, actually, Rachel said. Small world. Well, if you ever want to grab coffee or something, there's a place nearby that I work from sometimes. Great Wi-Fi, terrible pastries. I'd offer to show you around, but you probably already know it. Rachel thought about the coffee shop he was probably talking about, the one with 2 steps at the entrance that she'd stopped trying to visit. She'd learned not to make a big deal about these things, not to make other people feel awkward about barriers that weren't their fault. But something made her say, "The one with the steps out front?" Tom's face changed immediately, not to pity but to anger, real, genuine anger. "Are you kidding me? It's 2025 and they still have steps? That's ridiculous. That's just lazy." He pulled out his phone. "I'm leaving them a review right now and calling them. That's unacceptable." Rachel felt something warm spread through her chest. Not because Tom was fighting her battles, but because he was angry about the right things. He wasn't treating her like a tragedy or an inspiration. He was treating her like a person who deserved access to a coffee shop, full stop. "You don't have to do that," she said softly. "Yeah, I do," Tom replied, still typing on his phone. "This stuff makes me crazy. My daughter should be able to go, get hot chocolate with her new hero, and ridiculous barriers shouldn't stop that from happening." Rachel found herself pulling a business card from her wallet. She almost never gave these out at school events, but something told her this wouldn't be the last time she'd see Tom. "Here," she said, "in case Lily has any questions about coding. Or if you find a coffee shop that actually believes in accessibility." Tom took the card, his fingers brushing hers briefly. "I'll definitely take you up on that," he said. Then he grinned. Both parts. As Rachel left the school that morning, rolling through the parking lot toward her accessible van, she felt different somehow, lighter maybe. She'd spent so many years building walls, assuming people would only see her limitations. But Tom had looked at her and seen her. The programmer, the CEO, the person who'd saved his daughter's birthday cupcakes. It was such a simple thing, being seen. But it felt like everything. 2 weeks after the Career Day presentation, Rachel was working from her favorite spot in the public library when she heard a familiar voice. Ms. Chen, Dad, look, it's Ms. Chen." She looked up from her laptop to see Lily running toward her, with Tom following behind at a more reasonable pace, carrying a stack of library books that looked like they might topple over at any moment. Rachel couldn't help but smile. The man really did have trouble carrying things. "Hey, Lily," Rachel said, genuinely happy to see her. "What are you up to today?" "Research," Lily announced proudly, plopping down in the chair across from Rachel. "I'm making an app that helps kids find books they'll actually like. The school library system is super boring and hard to use." Tom arrived at the table, slightly out of breath. "She's been working on this for a week straight. I've created a monster, just like I predicted." But his voice was full of pride, not complaint. "That's actually a great idea," Rachel said to Lily. "Have you thought about what features you want to include?" For the next 20 minutes, Lily excitedly explained her app concept while Tom and Rachel listened. The girl had really thought it through. She wanted rating systems, recommendation algorithms based on what you'd liked before, and a way for kids to leave reviews for other kids. She'd even sketched out what the screen should look like. "This is really impressive, Lily," Rachel said honestly. "You've got good instincts for user experience." "What's user experience?" Lily asked. "It means thinking about what people actually need and how they'll use something. A lot of programmers forget that part. They build things that work technically but are frustrating to actually use." Tom had been quiet, but Rachel noticed he was taking notes on his phone. When Lily ran off to find a book about app development, he looked up at Rachel. "I hope we're not bothering you. I saw you working and told Lily we should leave you alone, but she was so excited." "It's fine," Rachel said and meant it. "She's got real talent. You should encourage her." "That's the plan," Tom said, "though I'm going to need to learn some coding myself just to keep up with her questions." He paused. "Actually, can I ask you something? About your business, I mean. If you have time." Rachel closed her laptop. She'd been answering emails, nothing urgent. "Sure. What's up?" Tom pulled out his own laptop and turned it around to show her a website design he'd been working on. "I do graphic design from home, freelance stuff, mostly small business websites. But I've been thinking about accessibility lately, and I realized I have no idea if the sites I'm making actually work for people who use screen readers or have other disabilities. Do you have any resources you could point me toward?" Rachel was surprised. Most web designers she knew didn't think about accessibility unless specifically asked. "You're already ahead of most people just by asking the question," she said. "Let me show you a few things." They spent the next hour going through Tom's portfolio. Rachel showed him how to test his designs with screen readers, explained color contrast requirements for people with visual impairments, and demonstrated how keyboard navigation should work. Tom took notes furiously, occasionally smacking his forehead when Rachel pointed out problems in his existing work. "I can't believe I've been making sites that half the population can't use properly," he said, looking genuinely upset with himself. "Don't beat yourself up," Rachel told him. "Most design schools don't teach this stuff. The fact that you care enough to learn puts you way ahead." "It's not about being ahead," Tom said quietly. "It's about doing the right thing. After I met you, I started noticing stuff everywhere. The restaurant with no accessible parking, the store with steps and no ramp, the playground where Lily wanted to play with her friend who uses a wheelchair, but half the equipment was impossible to reach. It's like someone designed the whole world for only certain people, and everyone else is just supposed to deal with it." Rachel felt something shift in her chest. She'd heard people say nice things about accessibility before, usually in that performative way that made her feel like a teaching moment. But Tom sounded angry. Not on her behalf exactly, but at the unfairness of it all. "Most people don't notice until it affects them personally," Rachel said carefully. "Well, that's stupid," Tom replied. "We should notice because we're paying attention, not because we happen to know someone." He looked at her directly. "And for the record, I'm not trying to be some white knight here. I'm just saying it's ridiculous that you can't go to a coffee shop because they're too lazy to build a ramp." Rachel found herself laughing. "Did you actually call that coffee shop?" Tom grinned, looking slightly sheepish. "I did. And I left a detailed review. And I may have started a small campaign on the neighborhood Facebook group." "You didn't?" "I absolutely did. 3 other people chimed in with other businesses that have accessibility problems. We're creating a list." He showed her his phone, where a thread was indeed growing with comments and suggestions. "The coffee shop owner actually responded yesterday. They're installing a ramp next month." Rachel didn't know what to say. She'd spent years advocating for accessibility, writing detailed reviews, making phone calls. Sometimes it worked, often it didn't. But here was Tom, who'd known her for 2 weeks, actually getting results. "Why are you doing all this?" she asked quietly. Tom looked surprised by the question. "Because it matters. Because Lily's watching how I respond to things, and I want her to grow up understanding that barriers aren't just inconvenient for some people, they're wrong for everyone. And," he hesitated, "because you seem really cool and it makes me mad that you have to think about steps and ramps and accessible bathrooms every time you want to go somewhere. Nobody should have to do that." Before Rachel could respond, Lily came running back with 3 books about coding, programming, and app development. "Dad, can we check all of these out, please?" "Sure, kiddo," Tom said, standing up. "Let's get going. Ms. Chen probably has actual work to do." "Actually," Rachel heard herself saying, "if you're not busy, there's a new Thai place that opened downtown. It's fully accessible and they have great pad Thai. My treat to thank you for the accessibility lesson." She wasn't sure why she'd said it. She didn't usually invite people to lunch, especially people she barely knew. But something about Tom felt safe. He didn't treat her like she was fragile or inspirational. He just treated her like a person. Tom's face lit up. "We would love that. Lily, what do you think?" "Can I ask Ms. Chen more questions about programming?" Lily asked. "That's literally the only thing you ever want to do," Tom said affectionately. They checked out Lily's books and headed to the restaurant. Tom drove behind Rachel, and she appreciated that he didn't offer to drive her or make a big deal about following her to make sure she found the place okay. He just trusted that she knew where she was going. The restaurant was perfect. Wide aisles, accessible tables, bathrooms that actually worked for wheelchairs. As they looked at menus, Lily peppered Rachel with questions about everything from programming languages to how much math you needed to know to build apps. "Lily, let Ms. Chen eat her food," Tom said after the 5th question in a row. "It's okay," Rachel said. "I like that she's curious." "I just don't want you to regret inviting us," Tom said with a smile. "Not possible," Rachel replied and realized she meant it. Over lunch, they talked about everything. Tom told funny stories about Lily's coding attempts, including one where she'd accidentally created an infinite loop that froze his computer for 20 minutes. Lily demonstrated the robot dance she'd programmed her tablet to do. Rachel shared stories from her early days of building her company, the mistakes she'd made, the lessons she'd learned. At one point, Lily excused herself to use the bathroom and Tom leaned forward slightly. "Can I tell you something? That career day presentation really affected her. She's always been into technology, but now she has this whole vision for her future. She wants to build things that help people just like you do." "That's wonderful," Rachel said. "It is," Tom agreed. "But more than that, you showed her something important. Lily has a friend at school, Amy, who uses a wheelchair. And sometimes Lily gets frustrated because they can't do everything together. The playground situation, or when the class goes on field trips to places that aren't accessible." After hearing you talk, Lily started asking different questions. Not why can't Amy do this, but why didn't they make this so Amy could do it too? Does that make sense? Rachel felt tears prickling at her eyes. She blinked them away quickly. That makes perfect sense. That's exactly the right question. You changed how she sees the world, Tom said simply. And honestly, you changed how I see it too. When Lily came back, she had a new question. "Miss Chen, do you ever get tired of people staring at you?" "Lily!" Tom looked mortified. "You can't just ask people that," but Rachel laughed. "It's okay. And yes, Lily, sometimes I do get tired of it. But you know what helps? When people see past the wheelchair and notice other things about me instead. Like the fact that I build cool apps or that I'm really good at saving cupcakes from falling." Lily giggled. "Dad still talks about that. He says you have better reflexes than Spider-Man. Lily!" Tom's face turned red, but he was smiling. They finished lunch and walked outside together. The afternoon sun was warm, and the street was busy with weekend shoppers. As they stood on the sidewalk saying goodbye, a woman walking past stared at Rachel's wheelchair, then looked at Tom with an expression that Rachel had seen 1,000 times before. That look that said, "Oh, how nice that you're helping that poor disabled person." Rachel felt her shoulders tense, waiting for the awkward moment, the assumption that she and Tom couldn't just be friends, that he must be some kind of caretaker or charity case companion. But Tom, who'd noticed the look too, simply put his hand on Lily's shoulder and said to Rachel, "Same time next week? Lily wants to show you the progress on her app, and I'm hoping you can explain APIs to me because I've been reading about them and I'm completely lost." The woman walked away, and Rachel felt herself relax. Tom had completely ignored the assumption, treating their lunch like exactly what it was. Friends making plans to hang out again. "Next week sounds perfect," Rachel said. As she drove home later that afternoon, Rachel thought about how strange and wonderful the day had been. She'd expected to spend it answering emails and working alone. Instead, she'd spend it teaching a talented kid about programming, helping someone redesign their business to be more accessible, and having lunch with people who seemed to genuinely enjoy her company. Her phone buzzed at a red light. It was a text from Tom. "Thanks for lunch and the design tips. Lily's already started rebuilding her app based on your suggestions. You've created a monster, a really happy, motivated monster." Rachel smiled and texted back, "The best kind of monster. See you next week." She realized she was already looking forward to it. For the first time in years, Rachel felt like someone saw her completely. Not just the wheelchair, not just the CEO title, but everything in between. The person who liked Thai food and could explain programming concepts to an 8-year-old. The person who worked at the library on Saturday mornings and had strong opinions about user interface design. Tom didn't treat her like she was inspirational or tragic. He didn't try to help her when she didn't need help, but he did get angry about the barriers that made her life harder. He asked questions about her work and actually listened to the answers. And somehow, without even trying, he was teaching his daughter that people were more than their circumstances, more than what you could see on the surface. Rachel had learned to be cautious about letting people in. Too many times people had either pitied her or put her on a pedestal, neither of which felt like being truly known. But Tom felt different, safe, real. As she pulled into her driveway, Rachel found herself humming. It had been a good day. Actually, it had been better than good. It had been the kind of day that reminded her why she'd fought so hard to build the life she wanted, to refuse to let circumstances define her. And maybe, just maybe, it was the beginning of something new. A friendship, definitely, and possibly something more. 6 weeks had passed since that first lunch, and Rachel found herself checking her phone more often than she'd like to admit. Tom and Lily had become regular parts of her life in a way that surprised her. Saturday morning library sessions where Lily worked on her app, while Tom and Rachel talked about everything from web design to their favorite movies. Quick coffee runs now that the neighborhood shop had finally installed their ramp. Even the occasional weeknight dinner when Tom was stuck on a design problem and needed a second opinion. It was comfortable, easy, and that terrified Rachel more than she wanted to acknowledge. She was thinking about this as she rolled through the grocery store on a Wednesday evening, mentally going through her shopping list. The store was crowded with after-work shoppers, and Rachel navigated through the aisles with practiced efficiency. She'd just turned down the pasta aisle when she heard a familiar laugh. Tom was there with Lily, debating the merits of different pasta shapes. "Dad, we always get Penny. Can we try the bow ties this time?" "But Penny is perfect for catching the sauce," and for Tom argued playfully. "It's science." "That's not science, that's just your opinion," Lily countered. Rachel smiled and rolled closer. "I hate to break it to you both, but rigatoni is actually the superior pasta shape. Bigger tubes, more sauce capacity." They both turned, and Tom's whole face lit up in a way that made Rachel's heart do something complicated. "Rachel, back up. Tell Lily that pasta shape matters." "I just did," Rachel said. "And neither of you are right." Lily giggled and ran over to grab a box of rigatoni. "See, Dad? Ms. Chen agrees with me that we should try something new." "That is not what she said," Tom protested, but he was smiling. "But fine, we'll try the rigatoni. If dinner is terrible, we're blaming Rachel." They ended up shopping together, their carts moving through the store side by side. It felt domestic in a way that should have been awkward but wasn't. Tom asked Rachel's opinion on vegetables. Lily insisted they needed the cookies that were on sale. Rachel found herself laughing more in 30 minutes than she had all week at work. At the checkout line, an older woman in front of them kept glancing back at Rachel, then at Tom, with that expression Rachel knew too well. The woman's eyes were full of assumption and pity. Finally, she leaned toward Tom and said quietly, "It's so wonderful what you're doing, taking care of your sister like that. You're a good man." The words hung in the air for a moment. Rachel felt her stomach drop. Here it was again. The assumption that she couldn't just be a person at the grocery store with friends, that there had to be some charitable explanation for why someone would want to spend time with her. Before Rachel could respond, Tom said firmly but politely, "This is my friend Rachel. We're just shopping, but I appreciate you noticing what a good man I am." His tone was light, but there was an edge to it that made it clear the woman had crossed a line. The woman flushed and turned back around without another word. Lily, who'd been examining a candy bar, looked up confused. "Dad, why did that lady think Ms. Chen was your sister? She doesn't look anything like us." "Some people make silly assumptions," Tom said simply. "Don't worry about it," but Rachel was worrying about it. As they finished checking out and walked toward the parking lot, she felt the familiar weight settling back on her shoulders. The weight of being constantly misunderstood, constantly categorized, constantly seen as someone who needed taking care of, rather than someone who could take care of herself. Tom must have noticed her quiet mood, because after they'd loaded their groceries, he sent Lily to put the cart back and turned to Rachel.
"Hey, are you okay?"
That woman was out of line. "It's fine," Rachel said automatically. "I'm used to it." "That doesn't make it okay," Tom said gently. "And for what it's worth, I don't see you as someone I'm taking care of. I see you as someone who saved my daughter's birthday cupcakes, who's teaching her about programming, who's helped me completely redesign how I approach my work. I see you as my friend, and honestly one of the coolest people I've met in a long time." Rachel felt her throat tighten. "Tom, I need to tell you something." "Okay," he said, his expression open and patient. "I really value our friendship," Rachel began, choosing her words carefully. "But I need you to understand something about my life. It's not just random people in grocery stores. It's everywhere. People stare. They make assumptions. They either treat me like I'm inspirational for just existing, or they treat me like I'm fragile and need constant help. And sometimes," She paused, not sure how to say the next part, but Tom waited, not rushing her. Sometimes people want to be friends with me because it makes them feel good about themselves, Rachel continued. Like they're doing charity work. And I can't do that again. I can't be someone's good deed project. Tom's face softened with understanding, but also with something that looked like hurt. Is that what you think this is? That I'm hanging around you to feel good about myself? No, Rachel said quickly. But I needed to say it out loud. Because if that's what this is, I need to know now before I let myself care too much. Let yourself care too much, Tom repeated quietly. You mean you already care some? Rachel felt her face heat up. That's not the point. I think that's exactly the point, Tom said. He glanced over to make sure Lily was still busy with the cart, then stepped closer. Rachel, I'm going to be really honest with you. I'm not spending time with you because I feel sorry for you. I'm spending time with you because you make me laugh. Because you're brilliant and driven and you call me out when my designs are lazy. Because Lily lights up when she talks about you, and watching you two geek out over programming is one of my favorite things. He took a breath. And yeah, you use a wheelchair. That's part of your life. And it affects things like which restaurants we can go to or whether you can visit my apartment with its stupid stairs. But it's not why I want to spend time with you. It's just a factor we navigate, like the fact that I have a kid and can't always do spontaneous plans, or that you run a company and sometimes have to work late. Rachel didn't know what to say. She'd prepared herself for people who either pitied her or put her on a pedestal. She hadn't prepared herself for someone who just saw her as a whole person, complicated parts and all. I'm scared, she admitted quietly. Of what? Of getting hurt. Of letting someone in and having them realize that dating someone with a disability is harder than they thought. Of waking up one day and seeing pity in your eyes instead of whatever this is. Dating? Tom said, and there was something in his voice. Hope, maybe. Is that what we're talking about here? Because I thought we were just friends who happened to spend a suspicious amount of time together and text each other random thoughts at midnight. Despite herself, Rachel smiled. What are we doing, Tom? Honestly, I have no idea, he said. But I know I think about you a lot. I know I look forward to our Saturday library mornings more than anything else in my week. I know that when something funny happens, you're the first person I want to tell. And I know that if you'll let me, I'd really like to figure out what this is together. Lily came running back, completely oblivious to the conversation she'd just interrupted. Dad, can we invite Ms. Chen for dinner? We're making pasta and she did recommend the rigatoni, so it's only fair. Tom looked at Rachel, raising his eyebrows in question. Rachel felt her careful walls cracking, felt herself standing at the edge of something terrifying and wonderful. Okay, she said, but I'm bringing dessert. Tom's apartment was on the second floor, which meant stairs. Rachel had learned long ago how to handle this situation. I'll wait in the car, she said casually. You two go start cooking, but Tom shook his head. Absolutely not. There's a back entrance with a ramp. Technically, it's for maintenance, but the landlord won't mind. Come on. He led her around the building to a service entrance she never would have found on her own. The ramp was steep and clearly not designed with wheelchairs in mind, but it was usable. Tom held the door open and they took the service elevator up to the second floor. I'm sorry about the sketchy entrance, Tom said. I've already talked to the landlord about making the front entrance accessible. He's dragging his feet, but I'm not giving up. You don't have to fight all my battles, Rachel said gently. I'm not fighting your battles, Tom replied. I'm fighting for what's right. There's a difference. The apartment was small but cozy, with Lily's drawings covering the refrigerator and books stacked on every available surface. Tom had clearly cleaned in a hurry and there were still toys hastily shoved into a corner. Sorry about the mess, he said. We weren't expecting company. It's perfect, Rachel said and meant it. The apartment felt lived in and loved, full of the evidence of a life being built one day at a time. Lily immediately dragged Rachel over to see her latest app progress on her tablet, while Tom started boiling water for pasta. Rachel found herself relaxed in a way she rarely felt, even in her own home. There was no performance here, no need to prove anything. Just the comfortable chaos of an ordinary evening. As Tom cooked and Lily showed off her work, Rachel looked around the apartment and felt something shift inside her. She'd spent so long building walls, protecting herself from disappointment and pity. But what if she'd been protecting herself from this too? From the simple joy of being part of someone's life? of having people who wanted her there not because of what she could do for them or what inspiring story she represented, but just because they liked her. Ms. Chen? Lily's voice broke through her thoughts. Are you okay? You look sad. I'm not sad, Rachel said. I'm actually really happy. Sometimes those feelings look similar. That's weird, Lily said matter-of-factly. Being an adult is weird, Rachel agreed. They ate dinner at a small table that Tom had quietly adjusted to the right height, without making a big deal about it. The rigatoni was perfect and the conversation flowed easily. Lily talked about her upcoming science fair project. Tom told an embarrassing story about a design client who'd wanted their website to play music automatically when people visited it. Rachel shared a disaster from her early days as a CEO when she'd accidentally sent a private email to her entire company. After dinner, while Tom did dishes, Lily fell asleep on the couch mid-sentence while telling Rachel about her favorite book series. Tom came out of the kitchen drying his hands and smiled at the sight. She's been going nonstop all day, he said softly. She crashes hard. He gently picked up Lily and carried her to her bedroom. Rachel could hear him tucking her in, their soft voices carrying through the apartment. When he came back, he sat on the couch next to where Rachel's wheelchair was positioned. Thanks for staying for dinner, Tom said. This was really nice. Thank you for inviting me, Rachel replied. And for using the back entrance. I know it wasn't convenient. Stop thanking me for basic decent behavior, Tom said, but he was smiling. You're allowed to expect accessibility. You're allowed to expect people to make an effort. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. The kind of silence that only happens between people who don't need to fill every second with words. Can I ask you something? Tom said finally. And you can tell me if I'm overstepping. Okay, Rachel said cautiously. What happened with your last relationship? You mentioned you'd dated before, but you seem really guarded. Did someone hurt you? Rachel took a deep breath. She'd known this conversation would come eventually. His name was Kevin. We dated for 2 years. At first it was great. He said all the right things about my disability not mattering. But over time I realized he was treating me like a project. He was always trying to fix things for me, always making decisions without asking me. He'd tell his friends about me like I was this brave, inspirational story. And when I called him out on it, he got defensive, said he was just trying to help, that I was being ungrateful. That's awful, Tom said quietly. The worst part was the ending, Rachel continued. He told me that dating me was just too hard, that he couldn't handle all the planning that went into going places, all the accessibility considerations. He said he felt like he was always walking on eggshells, worried about saying the wrong thing. And you know what? Part of me wasn't even mad. Part of me had been waiting for him to realize that I was too much work. Tom was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Can I tell you about my ex-wife? Rachel nodded, surprised. Her name is Victoria. We got married young, had Lily right away, and for a few years it was good. But Victoria always wanted more. More money, bigger house, fancier things. I was working as much as I could, trying to give her what she wanted. But it was never enough. When Lily was 5, Victoria sat me down and told me she was leaving. She said she'd married too young, that she felt trapped, that she needed to find herself. He paused, his voice getting quieter. She left, just walked away from both of us. She sends birthday cards twice a year and pays child support because the court makes her. But she chose not to be part of Lily's life. And for a long time I blamed myself. Thought I wasn't enough, wasn't successful enough, wasn't interesting enough. Tom, Rachel said softly. My point is, Tom continued, we both have baggage. We've both been hurt by people who didn't appreciate what we brought to their lives. But that guy Kevin was an idiot. Not because you use a wheelchair and he couldn't handle it, but because he didn't see what an incredible person you are. He reduced you to a disability and a list of inconveniences instead of seeing you as a whole person with dreams and talents and bad pasta opinions. Rachel laughed despite the tears in her eyes. My pasta opinions are excellent. They're controversial at best, Tom said, reaching out to take her hand. Rachel, I can't promise I'll always get things right. I'll probably say stupid things sometimes. I might not always know the best way to help or when to back off. But I can promise that I see you. All of you. The brilliant CEO, the patient teacher, the sarcastic friend, the person who uses a wheelchair. All of it. And I want to know all of it better. Rachel looked down at their joined hands. It had been so long since she'd let herself want something like this. So long since she'd trusted someone enough to be vulnerable. I want that too, she whispered. But I'm still scared. That's okay, Tom said. We can be scared together. We can figure this out as we go. No pressure, no expectations. Just two people who really enjoy spending time together, seeing where it leads. Rachel nodded, feeling something tight in her chest finally start to loosen. Maybe this could work. Maybe she'd finally found someone who could see past the wheelchair without pretending it didn't exist. Someone who understood that accessibility mattered without treating her like she was fragile. I should probably go, Rachel said reluctantly. It's getting late. Tom walked her to the door, then down to the service entrance. As Rachel was getting ready to leave, Tom leaned down and kissed her cheek softly. Text me when you get home safe. I will, Rachel promised. As she drove home through the quiet streets, Rachel felt different. Lighter somehow. For years, she'd convinced herself that being cautious was the same as being strong, that keeping people at a distance was protecting herself. But maybe real strength was letting someone in despite the risk. Maybe real strength was believing she deserved someone who saw her completely and wanted to stay anyway. Her phone buzzed as she pulled into her driveway. A text from Tom. Lily just woke up and wanted me to tell you that you're her favorite person after me and our cat. High praise. Also, I really enjoyed tonight. Sleep well, Rachel. Rachel smiled and texted back. Tell Lily I'm honored to rank above the family dog. Also, I enjoyed tonight too. A lot. She sat in her van for a few minutes just thinking. Her life was full. She had a successful company, good employees, enough money to live comfortably. She'd built everything herself. Against odds that would have stopped a lot of people. She'd learned to be independent, to rely on herself, to not need anyone. But maybe, she thought, maybe needing someone wasn't the same as being weak. Maybe letting someone care about you and caring about them back was its own kind of strength. Maybe it was time to try. 3 months had passed since that dinner at Tom's apartment, and Rachel couldn't remember the last time she'd felt this content. She and Tom had fallen into an easy rhythm, spending time together when his schedule with Lily allowed, texting throughout the day, supporting each other through work challenges and daily frustrations. They hadn't defined what they were doing exactly, but it felt right. Natural until everything fell apart at once. It started with a phone call on a Tuesday morning. Rachel was in her office reviewing designs for a new app feature when her phone rang. The investor on the other end didn't waste time with pleasantries. Rachel, I'm calling to let you know that we're pulling our funding from the accessibility mapping project. Rachel felt her stomach drop. What? Why? We're on track with everything. The beta testing has been incredible. It's not about the quality of your work, the investor said, his tone apologetic but firm. We've decided to redirect our funds to projects with broader market appeal. The board feels that accessibility tech is too niche. Too niche? Rachel repeated, her voice rising. We're talking about 15% of the global population. That's not niche, that's 1 billion people. I understand your frustration, but the decision is final. We'll be withdrawing our support at the end of the month. I'm sorry, Rachel. I really am. The call ended, and Rachel sat in stunned silence. This project was everything. It was supposed to help people like her navigate cities with confidence, find accessible businesses, report barriers. They'd been working on it for 18 months, and it was almost ready to launch. Now, without the funding, they'd have to shut it down. Her assistant knocked on the door. Rachel, you have the team meeting in 5 minutes. Rachel nodded, pulling herself together. She was the CEO. She had to be strong, had to find a solution. She couldn't let her team see her fall apart. The meeting was brutal. She had to tell 12 dedicated people that the project they'd poured their hearts into was being canceled. She watched their faces fall, saw the disappointment and worry. These were people who believed in the work, who'd taken pay cuts to be part of something meaningful. I'm not giving up, Rachel told them, her voice stronger than she felt. I'm going to find new funding. We're going to make this happen, but in the meantime, I need to reassign some of you to other projects. I'm sorry. I know this isn't what any of us wanted. After the meeting, Rachel locked herself in her office and let herself cry for exactly 5 minutes. Then she wiped her face, pulled up her contact list, and started making calls. She reached out to every investor she knew, every connection she had in the tech world. Most of them were sympathetic but not interested. Accessibility tech was risky, they said. The market was too small. Maybe she should pivot to something with broader appeal. By Friday, Rachel had been turned down by 17 potential investors. She was exhausted, running on coffee and stubbornness. Her team was getting anxious. Bills were still coming due, and she was running out of options. She'd been so focused on the crisis that she'd barely responded to Tom's messages all week. Quick replies, non-committal answers. She knew she was pulling away, but she couldn't help it. This was her problem to solve, her burden to carry. Friday evening, her phone rang. It was Tom. Hey, she answered, her voice flat with exhaustion. Rachel, what's going on? You've been off all week. Did I do something wrong? No, you didn't do anything. I'm just dealing with some work stuff. Do you want to talk about it? Not really, Rachel said, more sharply than she intended. I just need to figure this out on my own. There was a pause on the other end. Rachel, you don't have to handle everything alone. That's kind of the point of having people who care about you. I know that, Rachel said, feeling her frustration bubbling over. But this is my company, my responsibility. I can't just dump my problems on you. It's not dumping, Tom said gently. It's sharing. There's a difference. Tom, I can't do this right now, Rachel said. I have a company to save and I don't have time for relationship conversations. Another pause, longer this time. Okay, Tom said quietly. I'm here if you need me. But Rachel, don't shut me out, please. After they hung up, Rachel felt worse than before. She knew she was pushing Tom away, repeating the same patterns that had destroyed her relationship with Kevin, but she couldn't seem to stop herself. This was how she'd survived for so long, by being independent, by not needing anyone. The weekend was a blur of work. Rachel stayed late at the office both days, making more calls, redoing financial projections, trying to find any possible path forward. By Sunday night, she had a plan. It wasn't a good plan, but it was something. She'd take out a personal loan, cut her own salary, maybe sell her car. They could keep the project going for another 3 months. After that, if they didn't have new funding, she'd have to shut the whole thing down. Monday morning, Rachel was so focused on implementing her plan that she didn't notice Tom standing outside her office building until she was almost past him. Tom, what are you doing here? Waiting for you, he said simply. He looked tired, worried. Rachel, we need to talk. I told you I don't have time for this right now. Make time, Tom said, and there was an edge to his voice she'd never heard before. I'm not asking any more, Rachel. I'm telling you. We need to talk and we're going to do it now. Something in his tone made Rachel stop. She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the hurt in his eyes. Okay, she said quietly. There's a coffee shop around the corner. They found a quiet table and Tom waited until Rachel had her coffee before speaking. I talked to Lily yesterday, Tom began. Asked her what she'd learned from you over the past few months. And you know what she said? She said you taught her that people with disabilities are strong and capable and can do anything, that they don't need pity or special treatment, just equal access and respect. Rachel nodded, not sure where this was going. But here's the thing, Rachel, Tom continued, his voice gentle but firm. You also taught her something you didn't mean to teach her. You taught her that asking for help means you're weak, that needing people means you're not strong enough. That's not what I meant, Rachel protested. Maybe not, Tom said. But it's what you're showing her and me. You're going through something huge right now, something that's tearing you apart, and instead of letting the people who care about you help, you're shutting us out. You're carrying all of this alone, like accepting support somehow makes you less than. Rachel felt tears threatening. I don't know how to do it any other way, Tom. I've spent my whole adult life proving that I don't need anyone, that I can handle things myself. If I start leaning on people, what happens when they leave? What happens when they decide I'm too much work?